The environment is a gift from God. Hi, I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Well, our attention is drawn to the physical environment this week by an article in the Wall Street Journal from the editorial board headlined, Trump's New Chant, Build the Road. The subhead is, Fixing Environmental Reviews Will Pay Real Dividends for Years. This is what us economists like to look at. See, President Trump is looking at the opportunity cost. He's saying, yes, we must protect the environment, but at what cost? And if you look back at my podcast about the value of life, which was number 23, that's where I make the important point that this is how economists think. We think in terms of opportunity cost. Like right now, you're listening to this podcast, so you can't be doing something else. See, we invest our lives and our futures and our money in things that we think will produce more value in the future. So the Trump administration is only asking the question here, how much should we spend on the environment? And it shouldn't be unlimited. Well, from the article, one sadly spectacular outlier was a 12-mile highway expansion in Denver that took 13 years to get through environmental review. Okay, they admit it's an outlier, but that's the point that Trump is trying to avoid here. Yes, we should protect the environment, but at what cost? How long should people wait for that 12-mile road expansion in Denver? Should they wait 13 years? Because, see, there's many costs going on during that time. That means traffic is worse, people are tied up, there's more accidents. See, there's costs to all these things, and this is how economists think. So here's what it says in the article. The Trump administration's reforms, which are the first comprehensive update to EPA rules since 1978, establish presumptive limits. And there's two categories here. A full environmental impact statement, the new rules say, should take no more than 2 years and 300 pages. An environmental assessment, which is shorter, should max out at a year and 75 pages. Impact statements must now include the estimated cost to prepare them. See, that's a good sentence. Impact statements must now include the estimated cost to prepare them. Now we're thinking like economists. We're thinking we should protect the environment, but at what cost? And why? See, here's the Christian worldview question. Are humans here for the environment, or is the environment here for humans? Let me repeat the question. Are humans here for the environment, or is the environment here for humans? See, the Christian worldview answer is the environment is here for humans. It is here for us to steward. If you look back at my podcast number 38 about energy, I've said much the same thing. We believe in the Christian worldview that the environment is here for us, and it is our job to steward it. Right? So, and as I said in number 38 also, why were Christians late to the environmental movement? Because, like all movements, it was led by those at the extreme, those who worshipped the creation instead of the Creator. Now, as time has gone on, more Christians have joined the environmental movement for good reason. But you see why we didn't join it early on. We worship the Creator. They worship the creation. And that's how we need to be clear about how we treat the environment. Here's a quote by Michael Moore from the Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago. Quote, "We humans must accept that infinite growth on a finite planet is suicide," end quote from Michael Moore, the famous movie producer. Now, here's where Michael Moore is missing it. He is saying we humans must accept that infinite growth on a finite planet is suicide, end quote. He is correct, the planet is finite, but human creativity is not. As an example of Michael Moore's ability to make more and more movies, there seems to be no limit to it, does there? So, is there a limit? Yes, there are physical limits, but there's no limit to human creativity. In my little book, Economics and the Christian Worldview, I make this point. There's a limited amount of land, and God is not making any more, but He is making creative human beings who discover more efficient ways of using it. Quote from Dave Arnott in the little book, Economics and the Christian Worldview. And this is what Michael Moore is missing, the creativity of humans. And where did that creativity come from? It came from our Creator. So you see how your Christian worldview really informs your environment view. Are humans made in the image of God? As Christians, we believe yes. It seems as though Michael Moore does not think that, even though he has used great creativity to make his movies. but he thinks his creativity didn't come from the Creator, and he somehow thinks there's limits to his creativity. We as Christians do not, right? So, look, there is no God of the environment. There's only the God of humans. Okay, Andrew Murray in 1864 wrote a book called Abide in Christ. His chapter 4 is based on John 15:5, which comes from the scripture, I am the vine, you are the branches. Here's what Andrew Murray writes in 1864 in the book Abide in Christ. Quote, the vine exists for the branches. All that Jesus is in heaven, he is for us. He has no interest there separate from ours. End quote. Do you realize what Andrew Murray just said? He said that God is the God of humans, not the God of the environment. What he's saying is the environment is not an end in itself. It is a means to an end. Or as I pointed out in podcast 38, it is the resource upon which we use to make life better for humans. So the environment exists in the Christian worldview as a means to an end, not as an end in itself. Okay, so we're back to our subject here of scarcity, which we economists love to talk about, right? Here's an article from the Wall Street Journal. This goes way back to 2015 by Matt Ridley, and the title is The World's Resources Aren't Running Out. The subtitle is Ecologists Worry That the World's Resources Come in Fixed Amounts That Will Run Out, but we have broken through such limits time and time again. End quote from Matt Ridley in the Wall Street Journal 2015. Mr. Ridley is correct. That people who say we're going to run out of things have been wrong time and time and time and time again. But why do we continue to listen to them? If they've been wrong in the past, what about the future? Okay, here's something to think about. I've asked this in classrooms and in Bible studies among large groups. Complete the sentence for me. Life was better on earth before we ran out of. Sorry, I kind of mangled that. I'm going to say it again. Life was better on earth before we ran out of. I'm still here. It's called a dramatic pause. I'm waiting for you to answer. Life was better on earth before we ran out of. I'm guessing you're like the many groups in which I've asked this question. There's no answer. I don't believe we've ever run out of anything. So why do we continue to listen to Malthusians who say we are going to run out? Now, in the future we may. Yeah, that's possible. But in the past we never have. What explains this? Human creativity. As to my quote, God isn't making any more land, but he is continuing to make creative humans who find more efficient ways of using it. Here's how Thomas Sowell, one of my favorite economists, writes in his book Wealth, Poverty, and Politics. Quote, the world's known reserves of petroleum at the end of the 20th century were more than 10 times what they were in the middle of that century, where there were dire warnings that we were running out. The known reserves of a natural resource depend on the cost of knowing, end quote, from Thomas Sowell, Wealth, Poverty, and Politics. See, his point is, at $50 a barrel, we will run out of oil sooner than we will run out at $150 a barrel. We don't know what the limit is because we haven't set the price. Do you see his point? This is really good economic thinking. Look, in 1976, Jimmy Carter predicted we would run out of oil in 2011. I play that little video clip for my students at the university, and they just laugh and laugh and laugh. He says in 1976, we're going to run out of oil in 35 years. If you do the math, that means we ran out of oil in 2011, Jimmy Carter. He missed it. All these Malthusians miss it. Why did they miss it? Because they look at the finite physical resources of the earth, and they totally disregard the infinite creativity of humans to use these resources. As I say in my upcoming book, Biblical Economic Policy, which I've written with Sergei Seidamatov, I ask the question, hold it, college freshmen are paying less for gas than I did as a freshman in college 45 years ago. How can we be running out and the price is going down? To an economist, this just makes us shake our head. And I said that in class one day, and we looked it up. Based on the last 45 years in inflation, students should be paying $2.78 a gallon. Compared to what I paid as a freshman 45 years ago. They're not. Today they're paying less than $2. We're not running out of oil, right? So what we have here, See, in the Christian worldview, creation, fall, redemption, what we have here is a competition between the creative nature versus the fallen nature. The fallen nature wants to use up resources. The creative nature continues to find new ways to use it and new ways to use the environment. So in this competition between creation and fall, who's going to win? I believe the creative nature is going to win because it is unlimited. See, the fallen nature is based on scarcity. The creative nature is based on abundance. I've got a 45-minute speech on a scarcity versus abundance, which I don't have time to give to you today. It's one of my favorite speeches to give. You should invite me to visit your group. I mean, it's really fantastic. We look at this idea of scarcity, which is really where economics comes from, versus the idea of abundance, which is the Christian worldview, saying that creativity is unlimited. This is really a fascinating thing to look at. And so in my upcoming book, Biblical Economic Policy with Sergei Seidamatov, I say, Robert Malthus predicted we would run out of food. Then Norman Borlaug saved 1 billion. Yes, I said B with a billion with a B. Saved 1 billion lives through crop improvement. Maybe humans are made in the image of God. Dave Arnott and Sergei Seidamatov in the upcoming book, Biblical Economic Policy. Look, I need to do an entire podcast on this, but Angus Deaton was a Nobel Prize winner in economics, and he wrote a book called The Great Escape, How Humans Escaped Poverty. The very first line of the book is one of my favorite quotes. Life is better now than almost any time in history. I just take out the word almost because I'm an optimist, and I say, life is better now than any time in history. That's the end of the first line from Angus Deaton's book, The Great Escape. How? With a record number of people, 7.7 billion people. The point is, the more people you make, or the more people who are created in the image of God, the more creative they are, the more ideas we have for how to use the environment and how to preserve it. So this scarcity versus abundance idea is really at the point, at the nexus of this discussion in Christian economics. Is it the creative nature that will win, or the scarcity fallen nature? I tend to think it's going to be the creative nature. You can make whichever decision you want, okay? Well, and so we get this idea that things are running out, but they're not. They're not running out at all. We have more resources than we've ever had. That's it. Yep. The environment is a gift from God. I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist, where our slogan is, fear God, tell the truth, earn a profit. See you next time.